So with week 1 of stage 1 being done, what we're now going to do is we're going to look at the 3 regions which had any play in week 1. We're going to look at the map elos first and how they changed and what they looked like. And then after we're going to do the Pickems for week 2. And then either tomorrow or on Wednesday, I'm going to do the Americas power rankings. Since they are starting a week later, it's only going to be this week or later this week. And then, so yeah, either tomorrow or Wednesday, there will be the power rankings out, and then the day after, which will then be Wednesday or Thursday, either or, there will be the Pickems for America's Stage 1 Week 1. And yeah, so without further ado, let's start right ahead with China. And so what we can see for China, since there has been a super week, kind of, every team has played twice already. So when we look at the either permabans or never played, there are few teams who have now played all of the maps at least once. A couple of teams who have only not played one map, and then only FPX and Nova who have not played 2 of the maps. So yeah, as you can see, obviously with 2 matches being played for all of these teams, it's more likely that they will have played Fracture, Lotus, who came in new. And yeah, then when we look at the ELO ratings and the changes, as you can see at the top, there's XLG, then Tailu, BLG, and EDG, which I would say that kind of tracks with what has happened in week 1, right? These teams have looked the strongest in China, I would say. Maybe you could argue a bit about the order of these 4, but yeah, when it comes to the 4 top teams, I think they have looked the strongest thus far. Then after there's Trace, and then All Gamers, Tech, and then DRG. Now for these couple, I would say I would probably put DRG at the top of these. I think they have looked the best. I think then Trace is a fair point to put Trace then after. Then I would probably put AG. They didn't look good at all, which is really surprising, right? I thought they would be the best team coming in, but yeah, they didn't look great versus Tech. They then lost against FPX, so yeah, I would at best put them in like middle of the pack now. Then I think Tech also is maybe slightly high, but I think you could at least make the argument that they're maybe on par with Wolves and JDG who come then. I think FPX, they're kind of in that group too. So I think, yeah, we kind of have the top teams of XLG, Tailu, BLG, EDG, and then after DRG and Trace, they're like in 5th, 6th, and then there's like a big group of teams, and then Nova I think is clearly the worst team. So I think the ELO rating is actually kind of decent when it comes to China. But yeah, now let's head into the week 2 pick'ems for China. And so first up, as you can see, I've gone 10 out of the 12 games, or I've gotten right 10 of the 12 games. The only 2 I had wrong was Tailu winning against BLG. Tailu looked a bit stronger than I even thought, and I already thought they could win that game, so it's not like that loss came out of the blue. I kind of thought it could happen, but yeah, Tailu really looked great thus far. And then AG not looking as good as I thought, with FPX beating them. But apart from that, I actually had a pretty good read on China. And so let's hope it continues with week 2. And so since we have another super week for China, I don't know exactly the reason for it. I don't know why they want to kind of speedrun the group stage. But yeah, we have another super week. And so I will pick Tailu over FPX, BLG over Tech, XLG over Nova, EDG over Trace. This could be an upset angle, but uh, I think EDG has looked fairly good thus far. I think Jenny actually looked quite decent coming in for them, which is great. Then next up is a really close game for me, JDG versus AG. I think, obviously beforehand I would have said AG, but after last week I'm kind of torn who to pick, because AG really didn't look great, but it's not like JDG won against FPX, who won against AG, so that might be a reason, but I wouldn't say that I have a lot of trust in either of these teams right now. But yeah, I guess I'm gonna go for JDG just based off of the potential for the team, which I like, but oh, am I? Nah, I think I'm gonna stick with AG. I think it took them maybe a week now with the changes with their coach coming in, so maybe now they will look better in week 2. I think they're gonna look a bit better, so I'm gonna go with AG actually. Think DRG should win versus Wolves, even though this could be a close one. Trace should win versus Nova. PLG should win versus FPX. With how things have looked, Tyloo should beat AG handedly. I think EDG versus DRG could also be a close match, but I would give it to EDG. JDG should beat Tech, and XLG should beat Wolves. And so, yeah, I think that these are, for the most part, again, fairly straightforward picks, I would say. There are maybe a few close games like JDG, AG, EDG Trace maybe, DRG Wolves maybe if DRG don't have a great game. EDG DRG should be fairly close. Maybe if AG looks good again this week, maybe them versus Tyloo could be a close match. I don't know. We'll have to see. But yeah, for the moment, these are my Pickems for China week 2. And so next up we have EMEA. Now for EMEA, there's only been one match for each of these teams, right? As it kind of should be with the regular season, unlike in China. And so none of the teams actually have played Fracture, which is an interesting choice for none of them to play it. And we've only seen 2 matches on Lotus. So a lot of the teams still haven't played neither of the 2 maps coming in. And yeah, with the ELO rating and the changes, number 1 is still Gentlemates, even though they lost a lot of ELO rating. Then Vitality, Liquid, and BBL. I think if we take Gentlemates out of this equation, kind of, with Vitality, Liquid, and BBL, that's certainly the 3 teams that look the strongest in EMEA in week 1, I would say. And then Gentlemates should be a bit lower. Foot is actually very high since they beat Gentlemates, so obviously their ELO rating is a bit higher than you would expect since they just got a lot of ELO from Gentlemates, but I think it's gonna work itself out over the course of stage 1. Then Heretics, they lost to Navi, who played with a sub, so I would say Heretics is still kind of high, even though I kind of saw a bit more of the team of what I wanted to see. Like, it gave me a bit of hope, and I think a lot of why they lost was just because they were losing man advantage situations. Right, I think especially the 1v5 clutch by Chloric into the 1v4 clutch by Chloric comes to mind, but there were a couple more situations where Heretics just lost rounds that they should never have lost, and if they don't, then they probably win versus Navi. So yeah, I think Heretics for the moment they're a decent middle of the pack team, but I would probably even put them above Foot and Gentlemates. I would put Fnatic above them though, same with Navi. these two have looked stronger. And then Giant X, they didn't look great. They lost a lot of elo rating as well. Eternal Fire lost a bit. I think they looked better than I anticipated them to look versus Fnatic. So yeah, I'm really excited to see what they'll do next week. And then Pacific and Karma and Co-op, really not quite inspiring what they've brought to the table in week one. KC obviously playing versus Liquid is a bit of an unlucky matchup that they had, but yeah, they haven't looked inspiring in that game, so we'll see whether they can change that in week two. And so, in terms of the Pickems for EMEA, last week I've gotten 5 out of the 6 correct. Only the foot upset over Gentlemates I didn't anticipate. I really didn't expect Foot to look as good as they did, so good on them. But also, Gentlemates a bit disappointing with how they looked. But yeah, let's get right into the week 2 Pickems for EMEA. I think Pacific versus Giant X it's a potential upset for Pacific, I would say, but I would still go with Giant X here, even though they didn't look great versus Vitality. I still don't think that Pacific can beat any team in EMEA, if I'm being honest. Then next up, BBL should beat Eternal Fire, which is really unlucky for them to have both BBL and Fnatic as the first two matches. And then even in the third week they have Vitality, so they have the three hardest teams in their group just right off the bat. But yeah, if they can just continue to look as good as they looked versus Fnatic, then even if they lose these two teams, I will have like fairly high hopes for the team. Still for the rest of stage one. Then Fnatic versus Vitality. This is a banger game. This should really deliver. I think though that Vitality should be the favorites. They have looked better in week one, while with Fnatic struggling a bit versus Eternal Fire, whilst Vitality really ran through Giant X. So I think Vitality should be the favorites here, and it should be their game to lose, kind of. But yeah, then next up, Liquid should be favorites over Heretics. Maybe Heretics can get an upset here, and it would be really important for them to get that, but I think Liquid should be favorites. Then Foot versus Navi. I don't actually know whether Navi will get their whether they can play with their full team or if they have to continue to play with the sub. I don't know the visa situation for Exit in terms of what it looks like, whether it could be ready till then. I think if Exit is gonna be ready, I think they have a decent shot to win that game. I would put them maybe as slight favorites over Foot, but I mean, if Exit won't be there, then Foot should easily take that match, but I'm still gonna go with Navi. I hope that they can play with their full roster, and yeah, I think overall they're a more exciting team than Foot, even though I might be underrating Foot. But yeah, then for the last match we have Gentlemates versus KC, and with neither of the two teams looking great in week one, I think it could go either way realistically. But I would give it to Gentlemates, even though they didn't look great. I still think they should be able to beat KC that really didn't look inspiring at all. And yeah, so these are my EMEA picks locked in. And then lastly, we have Pacific, and with Pacific, we've seen 3 matches on Fracture thus far and only 1 on Lotus. Paper vs Nongshim being the only match that has had both of these maps. And so, yeah, what the ELO rating and ELO changes looks like. Number 1 is now T1, who have handedly beaten Varel. right? They had a fairly easy opponent and beat them. Then Nongshim, who lost a lot of elo, which in huge parts is just down to them playing the two new maps, right? As you can see, their elo is being a bit drained by Fracture, which they actually won, but even more so by Lotus, which they lost versus Paper Rex, where they didn't look great at all. So yeah, their elo rating is a bit lower than you'd expect just based off of that. And then the same kind of with Paper X, the elo rating actually went down, um, even though they won versus Nongshim, just because of these two new maps coming in. And I would say I'd still put Nongshim and Paper X above T1. But yeah, these three are clearly the strongest teams in Pacific still. Then Global is actually being really highly rated. To be fair, they looked really good versus Genji, but I wouldn't put them in like the same tier as T1 Nongshim and Paper Rex. But I think there's an argument to be made that they are like the fourth best team after them, which would be insane for them. Then there's Full Sense in fifth. I think you can make an argument for that. They looked really great as that FM. Then DRX in sixth could also make the argument that that's a valid position for them, right? They beat Team Secret handedly, which they were right. You would assume that they would win that, but yeah, nonetheless they did it in convincing fashion. Then we have Genji, who maybe are like a bit too high since they didn't look convincing or didn't look great in their match versus GE. Then there's RRQ and Zeta, who interestingly both went up with their elo ratings, even though they played each other. I think for RRQ, this match was a bit disappointing, right? They didn't look great versus a team that they should have beat handedly. They only beat them very narrowly. And I think for Zeta, this match was great. It showed that they are actually looking fairly decent. And so, yeah, I think they're kind of like in that midfield together with Genji, kind of all looking equally strong, I would say. Then after there's that FM, maybe they could belong in that same group, but yeah, they just had a rough opponent in Full Sense. And then Veryl and Team Secret, they didn't look great at all. They're the two weakest teams in Pacific, clearly, and they're understandably at the bottom of the elo rating. But let's now add to the Pickems. And so for week 1, I've only gotten 4 out of the 6 correct. I didn't guess the Paper X one also for Nongshim. That's a one that I talked about, that it's kind of like a coin flip, whoever wins. So yeah, got that one wrong, and then I believed in Genji more than I should have. But I did say that I think GE are favorites for the match. But yeah, obviously it was wrong to believe in Genji that they would look better. So yeah, now let's head into the week 2 pick'ems. And the first match is T1 versus TFM, and I'm gonna give it to T1, even though this is kind of like the prime match for T1 to lose. I think they've now lost a couple times to DFM in the regular season, so it would make a lot of sense for that to happen again. But no, I think T1 has looked better, so there shouldn't be any reason not to pret them. Nongshim, I still think should be favorites over DRX. GE should be Team Secret. RRQ should still beat Feral, even though RRQ didn't look great. Full Sense should beat Zeta, even though Zeta has looked better than I thought. And Paper X should beat Genji. And yeah, these are my Pacific pick'ems. I think with Pacific this week, there aren't really that close of matches. So I hope I'm wrong about this, and maybe one of the teams that I've predicted to lose does end up looking better than I think they will. But yeah, I think that FM versus T1 and Full Sims versus Zeta, they are probably the two matches where I can most likely see an upset happening. But yeah, I think with Pacific, these are fairly one-sided matches in this week. But let me know what you guys think. With which picks do you agree? With which do you disagree? And then we're gonna see each other either tomorrow or Wednesday for the America's Power Rankings. Until then, I'll see you guys next time.